Hey kids, Mr. Fly here, hope you're well, and welcome to a brand new series here on the channel looking at the motorbikes I personally own, starting today with this beast, my splendid Triumph Street Triple R. So in my opinion, the 2012 Street Triple R is the best Street Triple R ever made, mainly because of a number of issues. Number one, this was the last of the run of pre-Euro 4 bikes that had the original underslung exhaust. That is the way that the motorcycle was designed, and I think they just look right on this bike. Later bikes came with the exhaust underslung. Next up, this is the first bike that had the Dame Edna lights. These caused a lot of controversy at the time. Lots of people loved the old round lights. I personally like these Dame Edna or Fox Eye lights better. This was the first bike with those. Additionally, it came with this amazing black and gold paint scheme. This is phantom black with a sort of a metal flake in the paint, and it looks absolutely fantastic close up. And also, this is the last of the Street Triples that has the hooligan gear ratios. This bike has got much shorter gear ratios than the current Street Triples. From the 2013 model onward, they got dumbed down, so this is the last of the hooligan bikes. So don't get me wrong, the current Street Triples are probably technically better bikes with their suite of things like ABS, which is a good thing. This bike doesn't have ABS traction control. They also have riding modes and so on. But for me, this basic bike in terms of the engine and the ride and the excitement it gives you is actually a better bike than the current machines. And I'm glad to say that I absolutely still love the look, sound and ride that this machine has as much as the day when I actually bought it. And here's a picture of when I bought it. Hopefully you can see that this has remained in absolutely incredible condition. I do baby the bike, I do look after it, it has to be said, but the paint is still lustrous, the fit and finish on this bike is beautiful. I do baby it, I do look after the bike, it is garaged, it hasn't done loads and loads of miles, but yeah, I still think it looks lovely today, as I say, it's the same as the day that I bought it. So in case you're not familiar then, what exactly is the Street Triple R? At the time in 2012, the R was the top of the range bike. It came with some extras over the standard bike. Things like adjustable suspension was the main difference between this and the basic bike, and indeed the additional colour schemes. It also came as a sort of a dealer special with things like the belly pan and the little cowl, which actually wasn't a standard feature on the normal bike. Anyway, as I normally do in bike reviews, I thought I'd give you a quick walk around and talk you through the specs. I'll get the other camera out and I'll just talk you through the spec of this particular bike. Okay, here we go then, the 2012 Triumph Street Triple R. As I say, I think a beautiful looking bike then, and it is now as well. The engine on is what this is all about really. It's Triumph are masters of the inline triple, and this is of course a 675 unit. These days on the Street Triple they're 765 because as I mentioned, some of the new Euro rules have strangled them slightly. This particular unit put out about 106 brake horsepower, 11,700 RPM. These days they put out closer to 118 horsepower, so again, more powerful these days, but not necessarily feeling much faster because, as I say, those changes with the Euro 4 and now 5 as well has strangled the power a little bit, or strangled the feeling of it, I should say. The torque on this particular bike, 68 Newton meters at 9,200 RPM. These days you're looking at 77 Newton meters, so another improvement on the modern bike. The brakes on here, the fronts on this one, it's got dual calipers. You can see these are Nissan 4-pot calipers on twin 308mm discs. They work absolutely brilliantly on this bike. This was, at the time, the best brakes I'd ever felt on a bike. Now, on the rear, it's got a Nissan single pot, and that's on a 270mm disc. The suspension on this, I mentioned that it's adjustable. Up front, we've got some quite massive forks, actually. These are 41mm upside down forks on the front, as I say, with adjustable preload, rebound and compression. You've got the little adjusters down here at the bottoms of the fork, and again at the top, these little anodized pieces up here where you do the adjustments. So I have fiddled with those in my time, more about that later. On the rear, you've got this piggyback shock arrangement. Let's come around this side, you might be able to see it better. Here we go, there's this piggyback arrangement, which again is adjustable for preload, rebound and compression damping. And the rear on here has 130mm travel on this back wheel. Seat height on this particular bike is a very usable 805mm, so me as a shorty at 5'8", I can get my feet on the deck, no problem at all. Tank capacity on here, 17.4 litres. I get around 130 miles out of this before the fuel light comes on, and then it's good for about another 30 miles. So total range of about 160 miles, which is very usable. Electronics on the bike, well, none, I'm pleased to say, bar the rev limiter lights around the little dash on here that glow blue when you start to get towards the rev limit. Well, you can set them yourself actually to whatever limit you want. But there's no ABS, no traction control, no riding modes, no keyless ignition, I'm glad to say. And the bike, I think, is all the better for it. Usually what makes bikes good are the basic things about them, how they feel to ride, what the comfort is like, you know, what acceleration and braking and handling is like. The electronics really are just an add-on which don't always make the bike a better bike, it has to be said. The thing I really love about this machine is its weight. It's 198 kilograms, fully wet, which makes it a really light bike, and it feels nice and light when you're riding it and when you're lugging it around on the driveway. So what did I pay for the bike, I hear you ask? Well, when I bought this on the 29th of June 2012, I paid £6,566 for this bike. As I say, this is the top of the range street triple at the time. Here's a picture of the original sales invoice. I bought this, as you can probably tell, from Laguna Motorcycles in Maidstone, who are an absolute pleasure to do business with. And today, a similarly spec street triple R would cost you around 9,400. So if I sold this particular bike today second hand, I could expect to get around about 5,000 for it, given it's got a pretty low mileage. So it's cost me about £1,500 in depreciation over that time, or £187 a year. So pretty good on the depreciation front. Alrighty, that's it for the spec of the bike. Let me tell you a bit about what I've done to modify it. Okay, so nobody buys a bike as standard and then doesn't make it their own by doing a few mods, do they? So I have done one or two subtle modifications on this bike. I've written them down so I don't forget any. So the first thing I've added, actually the dealer did on the day I bought it, was an R&G tail tidy, just to clear up the back end a little bit. I think it looks great on this bike. Arrow cans I added about a month after I bought it. Again, these were fitted at a dealer. These were an option on the bike at the time. And when you had these fitted, it included an ECU reflash by the dealer. So if you do buy one of these second hand and it's got arrow cans, make sure it has had the ECU reflash, otherwise it don't fuel quite right. Next mod I had was the rear hugger here, just this plastic hugger I added. Standard bike didn't come with that at the time. I just found that in the wet it chucked a lot of crud at you, so that was a great addition. Anodised brake reservoirs, front and rear. Now I recently had a moan about the brake reservoirs, the plastic ones on my Speed Twin, which are sort of a translucent plastic, but it actually looks okay compared to the ones that are on here. These had those horrible white plastic, really cheap looking brake reservoirs, so they had to go. So the anodised ones came on. I just think it makes it look a bit classy. So one of those things that, given it's on the handlebars, you're always looking at it when you're riding, so I do like the anodised brake reservoir. Next up, Triumph quick shifter, had that added. That's brilliant quick shifter on this. It's up only, but it works really, really smoothly, and on a bike like this that, as I say, is quite short geared, it's an absolute winner when you want to give it the beans. I've removed the rear passenger pegs. There's a little bit of the subframe that you could actually take off, which had the pegs on it. Just makes this whole bit look a bit smarter, I think. There was no chance that I was ever going to take any passengers on the back of this. No one's ever ridden on the back of this bike, and they can't now because I've taken the pegs off. Next up, I added bar end mirrors. Again, these are Triumph items. Lots of people often ask me, where did I get these bar ends? These used to be available at Triumph dealers. I don't know if you can still get them or not, but they are, as I say, pucker Triumph ones. I just think they look great on the street triple. Just tidies up the handlebars again. Next up, I replaced the tyres for stickier rubber. I can't remember what they came with actually, but these currently are the Pirelli Diablo Super Coursers on here. They're not great in terms of wear, but I don't do that many miles on the bike. But on a nice warm day like today, if you're allowed to ride the bike, these are really, really sticky. A small mod I did, as you may have noticed, are the tank pad spots and stripes on the tank, and I'm really glad I did that. They were just bought from eBay for a few pounds, and they've just stopped. I learned from bitter experience on previous bikes that I've had that you can easily scratch paint around the tank where your legs touch them. So I added those, and that means the tank is still looking good today, and it's just kept it completely free of any scratches, so they were a great add. And then the only other change that I've made to the bike, I mentioned this one being the R has adjustable suspension. I have softened the suspension a little bit up on it, and years ago I made a video on exactly how I did that. So if you're interested, go and find that video. Okay, so much for what I've done to it. What I've actually done on it. So I'm lucky enough to have a number of bikes, and being a motorcycle YouTuber, I ride lots of other bikes as well. So I don't actually get to ride this anywhere near as much as I'd like. So to be fair, I haven't done that much on it, but I did do a track day on this at Snetterton. There's a couple of snaps here that I can show you. That was in about 2014. That was a really great experience. That was the first time I'd ever done a track day, and it just got me to understand exactly what the bike could do. The tyres were shot after it. I had a great time. Snetterton's an amazing track, amazing long straight. I had this up to about 136 miles an hour it topped out at. Really great fun. So yeah, first thing was the track day at Snetterton. Next up, in terms of decent ride, I did a trip down to Poole Harbour, the quay there. They have a bike meet, or they used to, probably still do in the summer. I think it's every second Thursday of the month or something. And I took the bike down there then, just because it was brand new and I wanted to see what it was like on a long ride. No issues to report. It was comfortable as you like. Had a fantastic day. The weather was like today. Had a great time down there. Must get down there again at some point. And then the other thing of note, I've written here a few runs to Duxford and up to my parents in Norfolk. It's which is a run of about, well, Duxford from here is about 70, 80 miles, and then up to my parents in Norfolk is about 120 miles. So I have done some longer trips on it, but I've never been away on tour on this bike in the normal sense, or done any really, really long days, which is something I really would like to put right at some point if I get the time and I'm not riding other bikes. So in the main then, the thing I've used this bike for very much is local blast. So I've got a few little routes around this area that I do that take me half an hour, and over lunchtime, just to blow the cobwebs away when we're not in lockdown, this is the bike that I love to jump on and just give it a rag around those local lanes. So yeah, it's a local blast bike, but you really could use this every day for all purposes. It's perfectly comfortable to use as your everyday bike and as an all-rounder. Okay, so what issues have I had with the bike then? In short, none. It did have one recall about 4 years ago, I think for the rear indicators. I can't quite remember what the issue was with them. I'm pretty sure it was the rear indicators. It was a bit foggy in my memory, but it's had one recall on this bike, which was dealt with pretty swiftly. What else have I noted here? Oh yeah, I did have a battery go flat on me once, and again, it had been when it had been sat in the garage for about a month or so, and I hadn't started it, and I think the battery may have been on its way out anyway. So in the 8 years that I've owned it, all I've done is replace the battery and replace the tyres, and that is it. So it's been a faultless ownership experience. So I've had no other issues with this bike whatsoever. It's run sweet as a nut. It starts every time, except for that time when the battery was flat, and it really has proven to be a reliable bike. Okay, what about advice to others thinking about getting one of these bikes? Well, in short, just get one. If you can find yourself a 2012 one, then as I say, in my opinion, they're the ones to get because they're just that much more of a hooligan bike. If you can get it in the Phantom Black, then in my opinion, it's the best possible colours. I'm a tart for gold wheels. I think they look absolutely brilliant. But yeah, they're fun to ride. They're lightweight. They sound brilliant. They handle well. It's no coincidence that these used to win and still keep winning all the bike shootouts in the magazines. These are a classic bike and very much a keeper. I don't intend to ever get rid of this bike. I absolutely love it. Okay, so that's it for this first edition of my bikes. There'll be another one coming along in a week or two about one of my other bikes. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If it's the first time that you've been to my channel, then thanks very much for watching all the way to the end. If you haven't done so already, do hit that subscribe button. That way you can come along and see me on the next video. I do all sorts of things here on the Mr. Fly. I don't just do bike reviews, but I do kit reviews in the garage, bits and pieces about how to look after your bike. I do monthly bike news, the odd live stream, basically anything and everything to do with motorcycles. I try and cover it here on the Mr. Fly. Okay, look forward to speaking to you again soon. Until then, this has been the Mr. Fly. Cheerio.